السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد. So inshallah we'll continue with our inheritance class today. Next week will be our last class for this year inshallah, and we'll resume. Alright, we're going on the 10th then, right? Because people still be holidaying then. On the 10th inshallah, so next class will be the last, and we'll resume on the 10th, Wednesday the 10th inshallah, January. Right, so we mentioned when a person dies, yes, there's inheritance, but understand inheritance is not the first claim to the estate of the deceased. When a person dies, there are 4 claims to the estate of the deceased. The first is what? Funeral expenses. The second, debts. The third claim is will, wasiyah, bequest, and the fourth and the last claim is inheritance. So today we'll speak about more the first 2 claims. Alright, so you have what is a gross estate. Just like you have your gross revenues, all your sales, right, without deducting any expenses. So the gross estate of the deceased is that estate that the deceased he left behind without deducting anything, without deducting any liabilities. Yes, there are liabilities to the estate, and this is what we mentioned earlier. So the gross estate is what? The estate that the deceased left behind without any deduction, without deducting any liabilities. Now you have the net estate. The net estate refers to the entire amount of wealth owned by the deceased until his demise after deducting liabilities. And the liabilities here we are speaking about are the first 2 claims to the estate. And the first 2 claims to the estate is the funeral expense and the debts of the deceased. After deducting these 2 things, then you have what you call the net estate, right? So the net estate, who benefits from the net estate? The heirs and the beneficiary of the will. As we mentioned, we'll speak about the will. If we get not in this class, definitely the next class, right? The net estate, the beneficiaries who would benefit from the net estate would be the heirs, and these heirs are specified by the Sharia, and you have other beneficiaries which these beneficiaries are connected to the will, the wasiyah, in which the deceased he has a say. He can stipulate other than his heirs who can benefit from his estate also. These non-heirs. But that is, we'll speak about that also. Right, so we'll speak of the first what? The first claim to the estate, funeral expenses. Understand, when a person dies, you don't look and see how much money he has, how much he owes, this and that. The first claim is what? The funeral expense, right? The money is taken and what? Is taken to what? To cover the cost of the funeral expense, right? Both the legal aspect also. And the funeral expenses, what? All of that must be in conformity with the laws of the Sharia. The addition, yes, would be what are called the laws of the land, right? There are certain requirements of the land that needs to be there, right? So whatever expenses that is connected to that would be taken from the estate of the deceased. So when we speak about funeral expenses, the anything that connected to what? The ghusl, the shrouding, the burial, right? Many a times this expense is paid voluntarily, right? So understand, if it is paid voluntarily by someone, by some member, whether it be a family member, whoever, then there is no deduction. This part is not deducted from the estate. Understand? So what it means over here is not obligatory upon anyone, right, to cover the funeral expense of the deceased. That is taken from his estate. But if someone wants to do it, yes, that is rewarding also, right? That is a good act, right? So if someone volunteers to do it, then there's no deduction from the estate of the deceased, that particular expense. You have what you call funeral grants also. So if the grant covers that, then there's no deduction. If the deceased does not have enough wealth, a person passes away, he does not have enough wealth, for his funeral expense. He doesn't have enough wealth for his funeral expenses. Then now it becomes the responsibility of his immediate family. If they cannot cover that cost, it becomes the responsibility of the Muslim community to see about that person's burial expenses, funeral expenses. And the funeral itself should remain simple, right? Simple according to the laws of Sharia, right? What is minimum, what is required, and at least the sunnah method of ghusl, the sunnah method of shrouding, the sunnah method of burial. To that extent, it shouldn't be extravagance. It should be without any extravagance. And when we speak about funeral expenses, understand we specifically mentioned it over here: the bathing, the shrouding, and the burial. We're not speaking about the chairs and the table and the roti and the coffee and the food, right? We're not going to speak about that now, right? But these things are not part of the funeral expenses, right? These things are not part of the funeral expenses, and hence it should not be deducted from the estate of the deceased. A person wants to do that, then he can do that from his own.
So we could pay once they are alive, we could pay all the funeral expenses.
If a person is alive, how can he pay his funeral expense?
Some family already did that.
Okay, no, we understand how you say that. If somebody is alive, can they set money aside for what? Funeral expense?
They pay the funeral woman. She can pay the funeral woman everything. So when she died, we went over already paid.
She pay the funeral home.
Yeah,
Alright, so understand, if that person, understand, right? If a person owns a funeral home, then just say you own the funeral home, right? And somebody come and pay for funeral expense, their funeral expense. And after 1 year, after 1 month, they come, right? Then they can retrieve that. That is theirs. Not so? So that money actually that they give to the funeral home, it doesn't belong to the funeral home. That is theirs. That is a trust, right? That is a trust. That is not a payment, right? Because the deceased didn't owe them anything that he's paid off a debt. So what he has over there is like money in the bank, money in the hands of an individual. That is a trust. Just like if I were to give you $10,000 to keep for me, all right? Now if I were to pass away, that trust now, that still is in my ownership, that will be part of the estate. Alright? So if you make it a little simpler, a person set aside money for funeral expenses, still it will be part of the estate. So even though they call pay, a person not paid to go for Hajj, he didn't go for Hajj, so the Hajj people take the money? No. I don't know if they can do it. But no, you'll be reimbursed. Right? So even though we call it pay or pay down or give, all these terminologies, it remains a trust. Right? And being a trust, that doesn't change ownership, it still remains in your possession. Alright? And we'll just say that, for argument's sake, just say she paid or he paid, right? And that belongs to the funeral. Right? So it will be part of the estate and taken out from the estate then. Right? Meaning it will be included as the estate, and that will be given to part of the estate given to the funeral home. Right? So anyhow you take it goes to the estate. Right? Instead of understand? Instead of the funeral home returning the money to the heirs, and the heirs were taking the money and then giving it back to the funeral home, you keep it and they do the funeral expenses. Right? Right, so no deductions for the cost of food, drinks, chairs, and all these things for the guests. Meaning if the guest comes, anybody wants and offer to the guest, that should not be taken from the estate of the deceased. Right, and no deductions for innovative practices, right, conducted after death. Even though the deceased left behind money, and when I die, this money should be utilized for such and such. which is considered to be what? Not part of the Sharia innovation, that would not be part of, that would be part of the estate, and the money would not go for that. So nobody can say, listen, the father left behind money for such and such. No, that is part of the estate. Being part of the estate is connected to the rights of all the heirs. Right? And innovated practices, it does not benefit the deceased. Right? So we continue. Right, we go to the second claim, right, and this is most important. The second claim to the estate is that of what? The debts, right? The debts of a person are not dissolved upon death, right? When a person dies, the debt doesn't die. The debt goes with that person. He's still responsible, he's still accountable for his debts, right? That person is still accountable for his debts. That is why in the early days, the Prophet ﷺ, in the early days, he would ask when a person died, he would ask if this person has any debts. Right? And if it was said, yes, he has debts, he would say, Sallu ala sahabikum ala sahibikum. You all perform Salatul Janazah upon him, and he would refrain. Just to show the importance of what? Making an arrangement to pay your debts before you die. It doesn't mean it is not permissible to what? To borrow money. No, that is part of living. Right? But a person, he borrows money and he has intention of paying back, and he makes what arrangement to pay. Right? Thereafterwards, Nabi alayhi salatu wasalam, when a person dies and he has debts, he would pay it, others would pay, right? But just to show the importance of what a person is making an arrangement to pay his debts. Right? He don't assume that, okay, when he dies, the debt dies also. No, it doesn't work like that. Right? If somebody owes the deceased money, that is part of the estate. Right? So you owe what? The deceased $100,000. The man died now. Oh, it's $100,000 finished. No, that belongs to the heirs now. Right? And this is more severe. Why? Because in his lifetime, it belonged to him, one person, right? And you know what? You and him probably good. He could have what? He could have pardoned that loan and this and that, But now he is what? He's dead, right? Now he passes away. That $100,000 is connected to what? 6-7 people. It's their rights now, right? So that must go back to the estate. That must go back to the estate. It belongs to the estate.
I've heard it mentioned at some qillas that, okay, if my father passed away, if he was owing anybody any money, please come to us and let us know. And if anybody was owing him money, that is forgiven.
If a person who making the announcement?
Let me say one of the children.
Normally, Imam would make that announcement, but he has no right to do that. If somebody owing the deceased, right, a lump sum of money, that money belongs to what? The heirs. Understand? So the heirs, they will have that call. They will have, that is their haqq and their right. So they are the ones what? Collectively, right? Not you have 5 sons and 1 son say, no. 5 collectively mention, okay, whosoever what? He owes my father, that is pardon, right? That is pardon. That must be collective. Why? Because say he owes what? $500,000. Somebody owed the deceased just for simplicity, owes the deceased $500,000. He dies now and he leaves behind 5 sons. That is all the heirs he has, 5 sons, right? Each son, what? His right is $100,000. So one son cannot say, you know what? We forgive that. You could forgive your portion. Well, you could say, I forgive my portion, so now how much you will claim? You will claim $400,000 and that $100,000, you could what? You could waiver that. He could do that with his, he can't do that with others. Secondly, if there's a minor, right? A minor cannot give consent for that. If a minor says, listen, I forgive that, I waiver that claim. No, a minor cannot do that. right? It must be given to him. When he reaches what? The age of what? Maturity, then he can do whatever he wants with it. But what, so long as he's a minor, right, he cannot give consent to his wealth, according to the Sharia. Right? So yes, what you could say, those who what? The deceased owe, right? You know, they could pardon him. And if, you know, they could say that part, right? They could pardon him, right? We ask if what? If the deceased owes anybody any money, they could come forward or they could pardon. They could make that plight, alright? But to say that, listen, and all those who owe the deceased, he pardoned the man died, right? It is pardon. Who pardons it? That is the right of the heirs. As I mentioned, it is something that collectively, yes, the consent of all the heirs which are mature, yes. But if there's what? Heirs that doesn't give consent, it doesn't work like that. And also what most of them are within the heirs, they are those who are minors, they cannot give consent. Right, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordained the payments of debts before the distribution of the estate. That's why Allah mentioned in the Quran, مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. This inheritance over here would be distributed مِن بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُوصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. After wasiyah, after what? The debt has been paid and the wasiyah and the will has been paid, then we have inheritance. Then inheritance comes in.
Okay, so how should it be done then? Is there some recommended way that this should be done? Like if somebody, let's say somebody come and say, well, the deceased was owing me money, but he's just saying that. Or is it that it should be in writing? It should have some proof that he is owing that person.
Right, all that coming up here, right? Good questions, but all that coming up here, right? See, I can't tell anything because I didn't give you the handout before, right? But all that inshallah will be discussed, right? Because yes, a person come and say, listen, your father owed me $10,000. That is true. Yes, boy, I give the man $10,000. Okay, well, so he go down the road now. Hey, just go up the road and say what? I'll lend your father $10,000. You get $10,000 for them, right? And like, no, it don't work like that, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he mentioned al-bayyinatu ala al-mudda'i wal-yamin ala man ankara. Al-bayyina ala al-mudda'i, that person who makes the claim, right? The onus of proof and evidence is upon that person who makes the claim. So if you make the claim, you need to come with proof and evidence. You don't have proof and evidence, you could be right. But if you don't have proof and evidence to back up your claim, you could be the Mufti Sahib, you could be the Imam Sahib. Right, the 5 any good children, right? You could, you know, you don't have proof and evidence. No. If that, understand, as I mentioned in the question, there are two types of what? Debts. Debts owed to the deceased them, right? Those debts that are known, right? The heirs, they know about these debts. That daddy, he owes what? Zayd, Umar and Bakr, someone is documented. These debts are known. Right? So if these debts are known in the lifetime of what? The deceased, and is known amongst the heirs also, those the executors, right? So when the person comes now, you don't ask him for proof and evidence. These debts are known, clear debts, right? So it's not upon you to try a fasting, right? Hey, where your proof and evidence? When you give him a $10,000, what proof and evidence? So that you know, pay back in any month, right? So you have no proof and evidence for that. But these debts are known. So if for debts that are known, you don't ask for proof and evidence, all right? Debts that are unknown, you know what? The deceased in his lifetime, he didn't mention anything, right? He didn't mention that what he owes Zaid $10,000 or he owed Bakr $5,000. He didn't mention that to us. Right? And many a times a person when what his day-to-day transaction, he will come and say, okay, family will come, right? I owe this one. No, it doesn't happen like that, right? So they may not know. So if a person comes now to claim, that's what the hadith mentioned in the faktubu. Write it down, but I know he good, but faktubu. You're not writing it down because what? You're afraid he's coming, you know. No, khalas, this is the hikmah behind what? Writing it down. Because if you give that person what? $50,000, right? You know him very good, and you don't write it down, you didn't tell your family anything, then what happens? When you die, that $50,000 gone. Meaning what if that person decide not to come forward? Then who will be deprived of that $50,000? Your heirs. Right? So debts that are not known and a person comes to make a claim, he must come with proof and evidence. Right? I'll discuss that more in details, inshallah. Yeah, go ahead. Who considered that? The dead man? No, him being a creditor, he could waive, you know what, he could cancel off that. That is, understand, if what, I owe you $10,000, that is, whose rights is that? Is his right, right? His right, he could say, listen, buy leave that now, pay half now, forget that, I cancel that. He can do that, but I cannot tell him, listen, hey, cancel off that now, leave. I can't tell him that, right? So, okay, if he sees that the family what doesn't have or whatever, he can say, you know what, forget that, leave that, I forgo my rights, right? How much you owe? Right. So in the Sharia there's a principle, nahkum bil zahir, right? Hukum and judgment is given on what is apparent, right? So we can't say in the heart of a person he intends that. No, you act on proof and evidence, right? So even though he may be what? A righteous person, a pious person, and known in the community, right? If the debt is such that, listen, there's no record of it amongst the heirs, it was not known, right? And he makes that claim, he needs to come with proof and evidence. Unless all of the heirs together, you know what? We'll accept that, right? Otherwise, what? Understand here? The money either the money goes to him or remains with the heirs. Understand? So if there's no proof and evidence, there's no claim unless the heirs themselves, hey, listen, right? We'll give him it. Right? But if within the 5 brothers over here, the 5 sons, one said no, that is his right. Right? He doesn't have to give consent. So if there's 5 brothers now, right, and 4 gives consent to that claim, and 1 doesn't give consent, then he will have $80. You understand? It doesn't work like that. You must come with proof and evidence, because everybody what? To you, he may be honest. Other people, what? So khalas, you act upon any proof and evidence. Right? We're not saying that, listen. That is right. خلاص, that done. No, I mean what you could do, what you're supposed to have done, okay, recorded, but understand you can't record something that you did today, and you haven't, did that happen the same evening or tomorrow or afterwards, so that is something that that gone. No, that not really in his hands, right? That not in his hands. Because listen, a person day-to-day transaction, right? As I mentioned, a person doesn't come home every single day and write down everybody who owes him in a paper, right? That is why the hadith, understand the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, right? He mentioned a person should not let 2 days pass right? Except that what? If he has something to declare, 2 days should pass unless what? He writes that.
But if he goes to and say, I write it today, I write it tomorrow, drama.
So this over here is something to declare that, listen, I owe so and so money. That is something to declare. This is the importance of what? Where the will comes in. Right, so as if he writes it and he has what? That is, and he has what? Witnesses state, right? That is sufficient as proof and evidence. Alright? Otherwise, if that is the case, hey, go below. A man just give me $10,000 over there. You go and tell them what? You know you got 10,000 too, right? Right, so the payments of debts are given precedence over the wills and inheritance. If there is not sufficient cash to pay the debts, the assets will be liquidated. And understand carefully. A person, when you look at the estate of a person, cash is one type of asset. You have the house, you have the land, you have the furniture, you have this, that, all of that. So now you have a creditor. You owe that has $20,000 the deceased owe him. The deceased only has what? $1,000 what? In the bank account. So the creditor comes now for his money. Understand, he can waiver that, but if you can't tell him, okay, the man don't have any money, that is still his right. He can waiver it, or he can still what? Claim for that. So he comes now, the deceased didn't leave any money behind. He didn't leave cash behind. So these assets will be sold, liquidated, alright? This is the general rule, but understand over here, you can make an arrangement. If you were going to sell the house and were they going to live in anyhow, but at least acknowledge the debt, right? Acknowledge the debt. So if you choose to live in your house of the deceased, if you choose to benefit from the vehicle of the deceased, right, which is connected to what? Him, Zaid, right? Understand? Debts are given preference and what? Priority over inheritance. So you cannot take the house and the vehicle as inheritance and deprive the creditor. But if you choose to do it, then you can make out a payment scheme. Right? Listen, every month I'll give you a 500. Acknowledge the debt. Right? Acknowledge the debt unless he waivers his claim. Right? So the whole presumption is, listen, he didn't leave any money behind, so I cannot pay you. What you want me to do? Yes, he didn't leave cash behind, but all these things are what? These are assets. It has a monetary value. Alright? He has what? Acres of land he left. Right? He probably didn't leave cash behind. So all of these things it has a monetary value. And you cannot benefit from it as an heir before what? The creditor. He has more rights to the assets than what? Than the heirs. But if you choose to benefit from it, at least acknowledge his hak and his rights and make some arrangement to pay, right? Or somewhat swap it with something else, right? Or give him, listen, he owes you $20,000. Take my card and forget that, right? You could do that, right? So many ways you could what? You could pay off other than what? Going through the actual fractions, right? You could trade your share of the estate for that, right? There are many ways you could what? You could work it out. But we just can't say, listen, no, the man leave nothing behind, right? He leave no money, what's your bank account? So will he also live on a coconut tree? No. He live in a house. Again. How much? $10? Well, we do $10, boy. No, you call us a figure, so if $10, you can leave that. $10,000. You owe him $10,000, right? Your children know about it? No, none of the heirs know about it. It recorded?
No, last day, I take the money from Zahir. I did. I want to tell me, shut up, I take $10,000. You say, I pay for it. And suppose you give an answer like,
No, that's a good. Yeah, go and ask me. Mean what? To my knowledge, all the heirs have to say, to my knowledge, right? We don't know that. Yeah. Otherwise, how much people gonna claim, right? You understand? And we have still. So if you understand from amongst the heirs, right? Okay, I just said, you think, okay, you have a good connection and whatever, you think he's a very good person, understand that, right? Your heirs may not think the same way, right? But as I mentioned, if all of the heirs decide, okay, to honor this claim, then khalas, they honor the claim because they're connected to their rights and they're willing to what? To give that. But if within the heirs, there are those that they're adamant, no, there's no proof, no evidence, so why are we going to what? Give that money to him? So 3 mentioned, no, we're going to give him, so it will be taken from their share. Right, so that's the whole reason we mentioned it. Come with proof and evidence, right? Proof and evidence, understand here. If the person doesn't have proof and evidence, he has no claim, right? But as I mentioned, if some of the heirs insist, right, then it will be taken from their rights, not his. It's like they're taking their share of inheritance and giving it to him, right?
Without any proof. I said, no, boy. I said, you will be that no proof of it. And it wasn't sure about
so overnight you turn what? From a righteous person to no, that's what. So listen, so if he claims from that is not his, right, then he would be sinful. If like thief money, right? You mean your children? No, the khalas, they take from theirs what was rightly theirs, right, and they give it to him. For him, right, it would be unlawful for him because that's not his. Yeah, for him. No, understand. Who gives that he will have nothing. I mean, the one who give, right? No, understand over here. If you come to claim that, remember you're a creditor, you have right to the deceased, so if to the estate. So if you come to claim now, okay, all he's doing is what? Executing what? The rights of what? The deceased, and distributing the estate. You come to claim, at the end of the day, you have no proof, no evidence, so you shouldn't have any claim to the estate to begin with. So the thing, okay, that righteous person, pious person, right? Still, you have no claim to the estate. But what they're actually doing, they're taking, okay, what is theirs, what is their share from the estate, and they're giving you the benefit of the doubt. Take it, right? Otherwise, you have no actual claim to the estate without proof and evidence. You have no claim to the estate. It's like what? Their money, they give it to you. They are winning because he made a claim. Right, understand the whole part of being dishonest that is unknown. They're unknown to them. If they knew it was dishonest, they never give him in the first place. On their part, listen. Forget dead and living now, right? You living, right? I owe you some money. You're not taking records, right? I paid you. I mean what? You paid me out. Okay, listen. You owed me some money, right? And I know the records. You don't have records right? I know, okay, you already paid out for the money. I come and say, hey, you have 5,000 balance now. You have 5,000 balance, right? So you give me that $5,000. What sin on your behalf? You have any sin on your behalf? You already pay. I check the accounts. It clear out already, right? But you don't have records of the accounts. I have it. You're not what? Keeping accounts. I keep in the accounts. right? And I know it already paid off. And I come and say, listen, you have one $5,000 remaining still, right? So you give me that $5,000. There's no sin on your part. The sin is on my behalf, right? Because I claim that which I have no right to, right? So for you now, you clean, right? We should do the smart thing and keep records too. No, you understand, your money remain halal. Listen, somebody come in your house, right? Break open your house and take $5,000. How you consider that?
Thief.
A thief, same thing. Understand things like mango and the right. Right. So yes, you know what? Have intention of what? Right? So what? You want the blessings at charity, not so? Right? So I put right. Okay. The man take the mango, right? What you could do about it? Brood over it, you're not going to come back. Hey, just intend sadaqah, so at least what? You get something out of it, right? You get something out of it, right? This 5,000, even though what? You want to give so much of sadaqah, right? And you want the blessing of sadaqah. If you know that the account settled, I don't owe you what? You don't owe me no money again. And I say, listen, you have $5,000. If you want to give me, you can give me in charity and sadaqah. You're not going to give me that, right? But because you can't give back the money again, right? Somebody steal your money and you just can't get it back again. And you know what? Hey, consider that sadaqah. Make the intention for sadaqah. So what? You know what? At least you get blessings for that. Otherwise, where you going to get blessings again? That is stolen money, right? He has to return that. Right? He has to return that, but at the end of the day, you know, hey, what you're going to do? You can't retrieve it and you're just brooding over it and you just lost. So just for you not to just be a loss like that, hey, my intention is so that at least I'll get what? Some rewards for that. It's like that. Right? So the payments of debts is not the responsibility of the heirs. Understand that? What is meant by that? If the person died and left behind what? Debts, the own, Tom, Dick and Harry, and the estate cannot what? Cover that, right? It's not the responsibility of the heirs to pay the debts of the deceased. It's not their responsibility, no, alright? That is taken from what? The liability of heirs only the assets, right? That is limited liability. It's just connected to what? The estate of the deceased. So, if the estate could pay off what? Half of the debts and half still remaining, that burden and responsibility is not transferred onto the heirs of the deceased. No. Right? But yes, if they want, right, they can pay it off. But it's not binding upon them, it's not religiously binding upon them to pay off the debts of their father or anybody else, right? If they want to do it, that is something good. Right? So the burden of the debts, that is what? Restricted to the estate. There are two types of debts, right? Two types of debts. Debts owed to what? Individuals. Debts owed to what? Institutions, companies that they deal with, right? Owed to people then, right? And you have what? Those debts that are religious obligations, right? Any outstanding monetary religious obligations. There are these two types, all right? You have unpaid what? Zakah, you have what? Fidya to pay, you have unpaid, kafarat and this and that. Alright? So these two type of debts, only the first one will be deducted. Who you owe people. You don't have to write anything. No, that is an automatic deduction. You owe Zaid, you owe Bakr, you owe this company, you owe that company, right? When a person dies, these are what? Claims. These are claims to the estate. Your monetary obligations, unpaid, unfulfilled monetary religious obligations, unpaid zakah, qurbani, unpaid any fidya, this and that, kafarat. These are what? Would not be deducted from the estate unless the deceased he specifies. Until he makes what you call a wasiyah. A wasiyah is simple what? Instruction. A wasiyah is what? A will is what? In this case, it would simply instruct, when I die, right, my unpaid zakah be paid. When I die, my fidya be paid. When I die, fidya for my missed salah and my missed fast be paid. He must specify that. That could be in writing or it could be verbal, right? And if he specifies that, right, it will be deducted from his estate. If he does not specify, then there is no deduction from his estate. There is no deduction from his estate. Alright, so we go to the first type. Right? We'll elaborate on the second type afterwards. So the first type now, debts owed to individuals, whether it be institutions or individuals. Debts now, this type of debt, it has what? Unlimited claim to the estate. To begin with, you don't have to what? The deceased don't have to write, okay, when I die, pay Zaid. What is sufficient? We know that you owe Zaid money. So the deceased cannot say, when I die, you see Zaid, don't pay him no money. Don't give him none. He cannot say that. Even if you write it and sign it and stamp it too, that is what? Null and void. Right? What is important? It is known that what? The deceased owes Zaid X amount. Alright? So individuals, individuals and institutions and companies, creditors, they have what? Unlimited claim to the estate. What is meant by unlimited claim? If what? They can what? Devour the entire estate. If the deceased left behind $10 million, right? And his debts are what? $10 million. Then what will happen? It will, there's no will, bequest, and there is no inheritance in that estate. All will go to the creditors. Unlimited claim, right? Unlimited claim. So debts of this type, the owed to individuals, companies, institutions, have an unlimited claim to the estate. Deduction of these debts are mandatory regardless of the amount. That is, even if it means that the entire estate be exhausted to fulfill, you need to pay off these debts. Now, if the amount of debts incurred by the deceased, it is equal to or it is greater than what? The value of the estate itself, then what? Forget who's going to inherit. There is no inheritance here. There is no inheritance here. Nobody going to inherit anything. All of that asset would go, wealth, it would go to the creditors. That person, the people who the deceased owes. This mandatory deduction is not contingent upon the instructions of the testator. No, he doesn't have to say when I die to pay or not. It is sufficient for the living. It is sufficient for the heirs to know that, okay, these are creditors, right? These are the people that the deceased owes, right? And this amount, that is sufficient. The deceased doesn't have to leave instruction to pay him or to not to pay him. No. He leaves instruction, doesn't leave instruction, that is what? Irrelevant. All right?
What about that is data on the assets? Like for example, I borrowed $20, we have $18 in assets. The other two, and if I want to take everything, there are $2 that are going. $200.
Good question, right? You call such an estate an insolvent estate, right? Where the claim to the estate, the debts are more than the value of the estate itself. So a simple example here, for example, listen. You owe what? Zaid and what? Khalid. Alright? Zaid and Khalid. You owe Zaid $10, right? And you owe Khalid $5. Right? But your estate is your estate is what? So that's $15 you owe, right? Your estate is just $12, right? You owe one $10, 10,000, 10 million, just say $10, right? $10 and you owe the other $5. So the total debts here are what? $15. The value of your estate is what? $12. Right? So each now would claim in proportion. Right? Would claim in proportion. What you do, you listen. You look at the total debts. Right? The total debts here is 15. Right? So Zaid shares what? 10. Right? His is 10. Right? $10 you owe him. So 10 out of 15. Right? 10 out of 15 multiplied by 12. This is how much you're going to pay him. $8. Right, him now, 5 out of 15 multiplied by 12. This is how much you're going to pay him. So each would not be paid fully. They would what? Be paid in that proportion. You understand? For example, listen. You owe one what? $10, one $5. Right? So what we have here? You have a 2/3 to 1/3. Because it's 15, right? So him is like 2/3 of the debt is for him, and 1/3 of the debt has to go for the other. Your estate now is what? 12. So the same proportion you're going to put here. 2/3 from your 12, that would be what? 8. 2/3 or the other, 1/3 would go to him. So none would be paid fully. Why? Because if you pay one fully, the other would be what? Deprived. Right? He would get his fully and vice versa. So what? Because the estate cannot what? Service or finance the entire amount due, then they give in proportion. So here's what? Side one is $10, right? It's $10 and the others is $5. So that is what? 10 and 5. So your total debt is for $15. So 10 out of 5 is what? That is 2/3. Right? 10 out of 15 is 2/3. 5 out of 15 is 1/3. So your actual estate here now is $12. So you put 2/3 of $12, hey, that would go to Zaid, which is $8. And the other 1/3 now would go to Khalid. Right? That is not the responsibility of your heirs. Right? That is what? Right? Right? But that now if somebody wants to give on their own, they can give. That are dead. Right? That's not dead. Alright? That is why if somebody give on their own, good. Right? And what we can ask what Zaid and Khalid to do, forgo that extra amount if they want to, but it still remains binding. Right? But over here now, because this is how much the estate is, $12. Right? We cannot what? That burden will not go on anybody else. Right? The burden is on the estate itself. Right? So that $2, it's still there, but you come like a person die, leaving behind a debt of $2. The deceased? Yeah, well. Khalas, that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would deal with him based on his intention. Right? We can't say, okay, he'll be taking the task and he did. That mu'amal, that dealings will be between him and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? But we just can't say, hey, that dead. It's dead. Right?
Not dead, but nobody is obligated to pay.
No, beside the estate. Alright, so we have what? Debts that are. We were speaking about this just now, right? Right? Confirmed debts, right? We answered the question about, listen, all debts confirmed in the lifetime of the deceased will be deducted from the estate. When I say confirmed, they know that what? The deceased owe this particular individual is a known debt. So that will be the what? Deducted from the estate, right? The testator must make what? These confirmations known, right? Meaning what? He must have it recorded, he must mention to somebody, alright? Whether it be the formal loans, informal, he lend the neighbor, he lend this one, whether it be formal, any informal. And if these debts, as we mentioned, are confirmed and known, then it's not upon the what? The one who's claiming to come with proof and evidence. Why? Because it's known. Right? It is known, so he doesn't have to come with proof and evidence for that. Right? And it makes no difference if the testator was indebted to an heir or a stranger. Listen, we understand he owes what? Somebody $20,000, right? he's coming to claim, right? But it's the same if he owes his son $20,000, but that's your father, boy. Still, right? Understand here, we get emotional hike. No. So what if the father borrowed $20,000 from his son? Nothing wrong with that. So the son now, he has that claim to the estate. So the son now would receive $20,000 from the estate by virtue of being a creditor, and he would still benefit from the estate by virtue of being an heir. But you don't get your 20,000 already. But listen, that's different, right? That different. That 20,000 he received initially, that was because he was a creditor. It has nothing to do with inheritance. Right? It's like he paid Zaid or Omar or somebody outside that he owed $20,000. So that finished. No time for inheritance. He would receive his share, but I finally get too much here now. No, that 20 is that is not inheritance. Right? Listen, only man wasa bill and everything included, right? Wasa bill, the TNTech bill, the rent, the plate on the house, where you're going courts and everything. Listen, the smallest amount, everything. Right? Yes, you can what courts are come and do not. TNTech can do not. Right? So class, we mean legally they may not be able to do anything, but the fact remains that listen, the deceased owed that money. Right? That is irrelevant. If a person can come and can legally claim something here, they have no papers, they have no, right? But you know that the deceased owes this money, right? Khalas, it has to be paid. Alright, unless there are certain contracts and loans and whatever, it is cancelled, right? Upon the demise of a person, and they accept that, right? Listen, I give it $10,000. Well, I need $10,000, but listen, if you happen to die, I would forgive that, right? The heirs will have to pay. You can make that arrangement. There's no issue, all right? If someone claims that the deceased owes him money and the debt is unknown, as we were speaking about just now, the claimant, the person claiming, must produce proof and evidence to support his claim. Evidence can be in the form of testimony of witnesses, documents, something written, signed, right, receipts, invoices, all of these things, all right. If a debt claim is made without proof and evidence, then listen, that person is not entitled to anything, right? He may be looking like a Mufti Sahib, the Imam, or whatever. He is not entitled. But if you as an heir wants to give, then give him from yours, all right. So now we have some typical case scenario here. Listen. The person claiming is known as a trustworthy person. He's the Imam of the Masjid, right? He's known to be a trustworthy person. However, he has no proof, no evidence, right? No proof, no evidence. Still no compensation will be given. You have no proof, you have no evidence, right? That stands up in any court, in a Sharia court, right? No proof, no evidence. If the heir, understand here, if an heir believes that person who's making the claim, he believes that his statement is true, right? Then that heir would pay from his, what he would be entitled to from the estate, khalas, he can pay from his portion, right? If he alone believes, the other doesn't believe anything, we don't believe, we're not saying he lying, but listen, we don't really, khalas, no proof, no evidence, right? So we don't really 100% really believe that, right? If the fella?
They say the heir knew that the father owes something. They knew. And maybe word in front of him to tell him,
right, so if it is known, that's different. If it is known, then what? You don't ask for proof and evidence. No, that's the difference. If it is known, right, you don't need proof and evidence. If the debt is known in the lifetime of the deceased, right? The deceased borrowed $10,000 from Zaid, right? No, Zaid is a name nobody uses there, right? In English we use John. We use John in English, right? In Arabic language, it was Zaid, Bakr, and Omar. Right?
One asking is that
Leave Zaid and
children knew
Uh-huh.
that his father borrowed money. They knew it.
Uh-huh.
They knew that. But there is no proof. There is no writing. There is nothing.
No, knowing that is sufficient. That is sufficient.
How they get a pay? And they knew that. There is no binding law to make them pay.
Right, so they would be the thieves now. Right?
So they're the thieving of that.
Right. Leading what Zaid now because Zaid. Right, so we mentioned about that insolvent estate is when what? The debts more than the value of the estate. So in an insolvent estate now you have nothing called inheritance. Everything would go to the creditors. Right? So now we have some case scenarios over here, right? Not strange, but listen. You discover a loan, right? The settlement of debts are given what precedence over the heirs. We understand that, right? But listen, after you share, okay, you deduct all the debts and everything, so what remains is inheritance and you distribute that. Then what? A person comes to claim and comes with proof and evidence. What happened to the estate already what distributed, right? So now that person, you can't tell that person, hey listen, sorry you already shared the cake already and he wasn't here. No, khalas. Debts are given what preference over inheritance. So if just say for example, there's what a discovered loan, right? A creditor comes now with proof and evidence and listen, well I know the man died, right? And it can happen, alright? Here we put it over TIN, but he don't watch TIN. He's going to church, he'll be watching TIN. So he doesn't know, right? So now he comes with his proof and his evidence now, estate already distributed. Still, that estate will have to be redistributed. Preference would be given to what? The debts. The debts are even the debts of a non-Muslim. Alright? So this is the status of debts. مِنْ بَعْدِ وَصِيَّةٍ يُصَى بِهَا أَوْ دَيْنٍ. Right? Debts are given preference over what? Inheritance. Right? So yes, whatever arrangement you're going to make with that person, right? You can make an arrangement to pay him off, right? You can see the proportion each heir gets, right? So yes, keep your property, everything, but listen, you have to pay based on that. Either what? Sell your property, they sell what you get from the estate and give it to him, right? Or keep it and what? Pay him off in any proportion, right? We can't say that, listen, hey, hard luck there, now you already distribute the estate. No. No time limit.
Like 5-10 years after the deceased.
Right, so this is a complicated thing, right? 5-10 years, you had to come up with proof and evidence. Alright? So I had to go through a whole scrutiny and this and that, right? We just wouldn't be this like that. Alright? And then afterwards you have what? The heirs may be what? Deceased themselves. They have what? Then they have their surviving heirs. Right? For example, listen. A person died, leaving behind an estate. Right? 5 children. These 5 children are the only what? Surviving heirs. The estate was not distributed. Right? It was not distributed at any amongst what the 5 heirs. 30 years pass, 40 years pass. What do you have? From the 5 surviving heirs, you now have just 2. Right? Now they decide to distribute the inheritance. And we did many like this. After people get the awareness of inheritance, we start distributing the estate 50, 60 years old. Right? So 3 of the surviving heirs already passed away. 2 remain, and now the children. The children of what? The deceased heirs, right? They are alive. So that estate will have to come down like that. Alright? So it would go to what? These 2 surviving heirs, their share, alright? And what was allotted what? To the 3 that died, remember they were alive at the time of the demise of their father. So their rights now will now go down to their surviving heirs and check and see who was alive at that time. Right? The wife, children, this and so it would be distributed at even what? So,
selling our house, how do we distribute that?
No, that's simple, right? And I mean, in practical is the difficulty to actually distribute that. But what you have to do now, if there's one house, right, and 5 people can own one house, 5 people can own one car, right? So what? 5 people own the house, right? So now, okay, one wants to live in the house, 2 wants to live in the house. Everybody wants to occupy the house then, right? 1 live in the house, right? And the other pay rent to the other, right? Or one citizen would buy the house and give and distribute. Different. Or you can liquidate the whole house, sell the whole house, divide the cash. Many ways you can sort all that, right? One would say, listen, this is the house, I will take the house, but this is the property I have in Barrackpore over there, I will substitute it, you take that instead. Many ways you can sort it out, but what you can't do is, listen, the house is mine. No, how the house is yours? The house belongs to 5 people. But all of you have houses, I don't have a house. That is irrelevant. But listen, you take into consideration that you already have a house. So you see how you can help him out and somebody. At the end of the day, you have 5 vehicles, I don't have one, so I can take one of them. I can't do that, it's yours. Right? Right, listen, that's an easy one. But now let's start thinking now, right? No, listen to this one now. This is important, right? After you distribute the estate of the deceased, you discover an heir. A newly discovered heir. How that possible?
Secret life.
Right? The man, understand here, right? But let them go think good at people now, gosh. Right? Listen, probably the man married before, right? Married before and he had khalas in this place or that place, right? He married in the States or he married Pakistan. Anywhere, right? Could be in Trinidad South, right? And then after he had a child, that marriage didn't work out, right? And he moved over and decided to get remarried and never mentioned to his family about that child. Right? So it's not an outside child, it's his child. Alright? He never mentioned to anyone about that child. Alright? And now what? The person died, so he knew like his father or whatever. They would, right? Now, after a while now, he finds out he comes to what? And most of it is our son. Son is king in inheritance. Alright? So listen, that's his haq, his right. Think finishing or we don't share it already. No. Redistribute. Right? Redistribute the estate. A discovered child, right? And normally listen, a man has a next And this is the whole the issue we have here with second marriages is not done properly. Right? Second wife living somewhere in some apartment. Nobody know about it, right? Children, this and that, and the man going 3 days every month, but you're not seeing him in the markers, right? So then afterwards, this man passes away now, and she can come and say, hey, I was married to him. There is more trouble. Right? But she would be deprived of her inheritance, and most of she has children for him. They will be deprived of the inheritance, right? So the estate of Zaid, we're using Zaid, right? We use Zaid, right? The estate of Zaid was distributed amongst his heirs. Thereafter, a woman came claiming that Zaid was married to her. Right? Zaid was married to her, and that marriage lasted until he died. So if that is the case, then she's an heir. Right? Being a wife, she'll be a wife and she'll be the heir. Right? So she brought witnesses and this and that to prove that she was married to Zaid. So she has claim to the estate. Right? And more so, if she had a child with Zaid, then that child also has claim to the estate of Zaid.
For instance, if you have 2 daughters and 2 sons, does they get equal shares?
No, they would get fiction. The 2 daughters would get what? the daughters and the son, right, they would share the ratio 2-to-1, right? That inshallah with the actual distribution, how much each heir would get, inshallah we do that afterwards, right? But each heir, they have a specific share. Right, with regards to what sons and daughters, Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran, لِلذَّكَرِ مِثْلُ حَظِّ الْأُنْثَيَيْنِ. Each son will get twice the amount of a daughter. Right?
He was asking questions that the same two sons and daughters have more daughters. After distributing this. So the two sons marry two daughters now. You give your son a bigger room, his wife, and give your daughter a smaller room with her.
The estate wasn't distributed, right? This is what? This is after demise. Right? So while the man is alive, while the father is alive, he can do whatever he wants. Right? So long as it remains part of the estate, meaning he didn't give it to them in his lifetime and he happens to die, then all of that now would be part of his estate. Right? And being part of his estate now, the Sharia now would what? Distribute. Right? For example, for example, a son and a daughter, right? A son and a daughter, the man leave behind what? Say $300,000, right? The son will get what? $200,000 and the daughter will get $100,000. So the dollars and the cash easy to distribute, right? So now we have a ratio of 1-to-2. He leave the house behind, he has a house, right? So you what? You value that house. That house is worth what? $3 million? Okay, $300,000. Then 1/3 of that value would belong to the daughter and 2/3 would belong to the son, right? This is the value of it, right? They can make whatever arrangement. They said, you take the house is the son considers it. You take the house and you what? Pay me for what? My portion, right? Or he could what? Forego his portion. Or he could say, you know what? Listen, your claim to the land at the back, I will take the land at the back. And we'll trade it with my share, my claim to the house. Many different ways that could work out, right? That could work out. That's simple. It could work out. But what shouldn't happen? Listen, hey, you don't have a house, I don't have a house. I take in the house for myself. No. Attribute what? To each heir their haq and their right, and from there now you could what? They could pardon, they could trade off, many things could work out. They can make arrangement, right? No, understand, even though what your house it was what, say $200,000, your part it was $200,000, and her part it just worth how much? $100,000. You could say, you know what, that the vehicle, right, that was what, that is valued $50,000, your share is 10 and my share is what, $20,000. Just what, give me the vehicle for my 200,000 worth of the house. They can make that trade too. It doesn't have to be the same value. He doesn't want anything, right? Don't force him. Right? Better again. No, serious. Understand here, you don't have to take it. That is your right. You can what? But what we can't do, we can't say, listen, we're not giving. No, we have to attribute that haq and that right to you. Right? Then afterwards, you can say whatever you want to do with it. Right? I don't want it. I just want half. You know? That's your haq. That's your right. You could forego your claim. Half a second, so I just stop. Right, so we'll stop here, right? We have the last class. I don't know how we're going to do everything in the last class, but what's that?
2 years ago, you want to do Fidyan and you want to do debts.
Right, so we dealt with what? We dealt with the debts owed to individuals, right? That has unlimited claim to the estate. We dealt with that today. The second type now, it's very simple, right? That would only have an effect on the estate if the deceased, the testator in his lifetime, he instructed it, when I die, this be paid, right? Whether it be verbally or written. But that has an unlimited claim to the estate. 1/3, this is when the wasiya comes in the will, right, that has an unlimited, not that one, unlimited claim to the estate. For example, the man, his religious monetary obligation, just a simple example, right? Say the net estate is what? $15,000, right? 1/3 of that, this is the maximum allowed for wills and wasi and bequests and monetary religious obligations, 1/3. So 1/3 of that is $5,000. So if a person has outstanding religious monetary obligation that exceeds what? $5,000, only $5,000 will be financed. Only the value of why? Because after 5,000 it depends into what? What belongs to the heirs. Right? So when the man is, it will come up to about 15,000, 20,000, only 5,000 will be financed. Right? The others will remain unpaid. Right? Unless these heirs were to forego their rights, their claim to the estate, you know what? Take from our share and pay for what all is unpaid fidya and kafarat and whatever, but the consent must come from the heirs. Why? Because more than 1/3 they start dipping into what? The rights of the heirs. Right? We'll discuss that. Next week we have to do inshallah the wills. Right? We'll do the wills next week inshallah. And if we have to stretch, no, we don't want to stretch until after that. So next week inshallah, last video inshallah. But hope to see you next week inshallah, important class. Jazakumullah khairan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.